A surprising number of seniors in Memphis suffer from food insecurity. Tonight on The Best Times, we examine the progress of the No Hungry Senior Project. We'll explore the art of creative aging, and you'll learn about a nasty little bug. Funding for The Best Times is provided by the Plow Foundation, striving to do the greatest good by helping the greatest number of people since 1964. Additional funding is provided by the members of WKNO. Thank you. Hello, I'm Chris Hardaway. Welcome to this edition of The Best Times, a series that looks at life after 50. Most of us never know real hunger. We never live with an empty stomach and the empty feeling of not knowing where the next meal is coming from. Studies have identified nearly 17,000 seniors in Shelby County that are food insecure. But what does that phrase really mean? And what is being done to feed this vulnerable population? Tonight on The Best Times, we examine food insecurity.
Most people don't understand when you say hunger. No one's hungry in this country. You know, this is the land of plenty. What we found in our interviews with people, when we ask, have you ever been hungry? They say no. But if you ask, have you ever skipped a meal? The answer is yes. Have you ever had not enough to eat? The answer is yes. Have you ever gone a day without eating? The answer is yes.
In the No Hungry Senior world, our clients, more than half of them have less than $1,000 a month to live on. So a lot of seniors will have to make a decision. Do I get my medication this month or not? Do I pay my utility bill or get the food I need?
The number of people in Memphis who don't know where their next meal is coming from is eye-opening. The organization Feeding America reports that while the overall state food insecurity rate is 16%, the overall rate for Shelby County stands at nearly 22%. That's over 200,000 people at risk, many of them seniors.
It's a number that concerns us because we're not reaching all of those people.
The impact of food insecurity goes far beyond mere hunger. Statistics from Feeding America show that 60% of food insecure seniors are more likely to experience depression. 53% are more likely to report a heart attack. 52% are more likely to develop asthma. And 40% are more likely to have congestive heart failure. It's estimated that food insecurity adds $160 billion to the cost of health care in this country every year.
It's quite shocking, the numbers of seniors that don't have food security at all.
In 2015, the Plow Foundation's Aging Initiative awarded a 3-year grant to 8 agencies in the Memphis area to develop the No Hungry Senior Project. MIFA is the lead agency in this collaboration. In 2015, during a partial year of operation, they delivered over 39,000 meals. 2016 was the first full year of operation, and over 212,000 meals were delivered. Through the first quarter of 2017, they've delivered 65,000 meals. Countywide, about 1,600 people have been fed by the program. Progress, to be sure, but far short of the estimated 17,000 Shelby County seniors that are food insecure.
So we're just scratching the surface with, 1,600 people. There's always going to be more need out there than we can possibly meet. Right now, when we look at meals programs overall in the country, America's Meals on Wheels programs are feeding 23 million less people than they did back in 2005.
Data from the No Hungry Senior program paints a picture of our most vulnerable senior citizens. They range in age from 60 to 105, with 34% of them 80 or older. More than 3/4 are African American, 62% are female, and more than half live on less than $1,000 a month.
80% have high blood pressure. That's a really high number. It's higher than the average. And more than half have diabetes, type 2 diabetes.
Floria Robinson is a typical client. She lives alone and receives weekly deliveries of shelf-stable foods from MIFA volunteers.
The nurse came by my house and asked me, do I want MIFA Meals on Wheels? I told him yes, if I'm qualified.
The involvement of Baptist and Methodist healthcare organizations is a unique aspect of the No Hungry Senior Collaborative. Hospitals are in the ideal position to identify malnutrition among their senior patients.
And one of the things we've been interested in knowing is, does it keep people from returning to the hospitals within that 30-day period? And we're still struggling with assessing that because we're basing most of our evaluation on self-reports. And so when you go back, 30 days, sometimes it's 40 days after they were released, and you ask them if they had been hospitalized, sometimes there's memory issues. And so we're trying to work with the hospitals now to get them to verify the information.
So far, the program doesn't seem to have made a dent in the 20% readmission rate 30 days after hospitalization, but the data is still being analyzed. The No Hungry Senior program delivers hot meals and shelf-stable foods like this typical box. It contains food for 7 meals, 4 breakfasts, and 3 lunches or dinners, plus some snacks. The cardboard box is donated by International Paper, but the food must be purchased because of the specific nutritional requirements of seniors. The 7 meals in this box cost $9.50.
Well, last year we spent close to $1 million just on the food product, but we're feeding, we're doing a lot of meals. That covers the hot meal and the box meal.
The foot soldiers in the battle against food insecurity are MIFA volunteers. Steve Freno and his daughter take meals to hungry clients, but they're delivering much more than food.
Once I got out there on the road and did my first deliveries, I realized that it's not just a meal. A lot of time it's the personal connection. Sometimes we're the only people that these folks see on a daily basis. I do one of the poorer neighborhoods in Memphis. I do a route called Route 12 out here, and everywhere I go, I get asked by people, how can I get on the list? How can I get on the list? And I give them the phone number out. So it's obviously a huge problem.
Ulrika Jackson and Christian Lopes work at the Church Health Center and volunteer their time to deliver meals because it's a way for them to give back to their community.
It's a great way to get into the community. It's a great way to give back. It's a great way to also connect with senior citizens, which a lot of people don't necessarily know how to. And so I think if you are looking for a way to give back to your community and connect with a certain population that a lot of people don't really know how to, I think this is a great way to do it.
We may be the only people these people see. There's one lady on a route that she has tons of family. I mean, tons of family. They don't help her. They don't come to see her. She's kind of out there fending for herself.
One of the things we measure is loneliness. And there's a standardized scale where we ask people questions that have to do with loneliness and isolation. And about 40% of the people, 44% of the people indicate that they are lonely. And that number has shown a significant decrease since they've been in the program. And we think it's because of that, in many cases, daily or 5 days a week contact with somebody coming in.
The No Hungry Senior grant period is coming to a close. Now the question shifts to sustainability.
We need more partners to come alongside and say, yes, we understand that we have people who need the services, but also, yes, I want to connect with other people in our community in a very deep and meaningful way.
So has the program succeeded in its goals? In sheer numbers of seniors served, the program will likely reach its goal. But those numbers pale in comparison to the total need. And the population of food insecure seniors will only increase as the baby boomers age. But there is another yardstick by which this program can be measured.
One of the questions we ask on the screening is, do you eat fewer than 2 meals a day? And at the time of the screening, I think it's about close to 80% of the people who screen in say yes, they only eat 1 meal a day. At the 1-year follow-up, it's only 15% that say that. So to me, that is a great measure of change.
Being able to say that we are helping the most vulnerable, but also that they're really sharing their wisdom with us. Like I said before, it's that connection. It makes the fiber of our community stronger.
Can exposure to the arts improve the quality of life for older adults? Can listening to a 1-hour music concert result in fewer doctor visits and less medication? A study by George Washington University came to the conclusion that art has the power to change lives at every age, and that is the concept behind creative aging. On a Friday afternoon, the residents of The Point at Kirby Gate are dancing and clapping to the old-time jug band music of the Side Street Steppers. Since 2003, the nonprofit organization Creative Aging has brought nearly 6,000 performances into over 60 senior communities throughout the Mid-South, bringing the power of the arts to older adults where they live.
As we age, there's a lot of emphasis on keeping our bodies in good shape, but we also want to keep our minds strong and our hearts strong. And music and the arts are a way to make sure that that happens.
At the Gardens of Germantown, Cherry Brooks and Cal Jackson are playing tunes from the Great American Songbook to an audience made up of memory care residents and their family members. Musical acts make up the majority of Creative Aging's performers, but the joy of art isn't all about singing and dancing. At the Jewish Community Center, Christy Duckworth is instructing a group of seniors in the art of making mosaics from colorful stone tile.
Creativity benefits everyone. It helps their fine motor skills, and it helps their thinking. They have to decide what colors and what shape, what symbol. It helps them socially. They get to interact with other people their own age.
The benefits that Christy speaks of actually have a basis in scientific fact.
Essentially, the neurons in our brains change as we age, but art and music has a way of helping things reconnect. And reestablishing those connections can make a meaningful change to older adults in their ability to function. And in fact, there's lots of evidence that the onset of Alzheimer's can be slowed down dramatically by exposure to art and music. There's also a great deal of evidence that anxiety is reduced, depression is reduced, and even that incidences of hospitalization are reduced among seniors with frequent exposure to music and the arts.
Scientists have identified 7 benefits for older participants in the arts: recreation, self-expression, communication, socialization, intellectual stimulation, emotional well-being, and physical benefits.
Adults who are in a nursing facility, and they may be sitting there almost appearing to be asleep. But as the time goes by during the 1 hour performance, one begins to see the hands tapping, clapping, feet moving, and things like that happening. And we know what's going on inside their minds too, that things are connecting again, and they're feeling the joyfulness that music and art bring.
The joy of music and art is on display at Plow Towers, where Frank Schaefer is leading a drum circle. It's a community rhythm-based activity, and the beauty is no musical skills are required. The drum circle brings together all of the benefits that art has for older participants.
It helps people relieve stress in most instances. Just helps them to have some fun, just beat a drum or play a hand percussion instrument. It also gives them a feeling of empowerment, sometimes through the drumming. Regular drumming helps boost the immune system as well. But sometimes the drum circle opens people up to do things that they don't feel that they can express through words, or brings people out of their shells.
Banging on a drum for an hour is great physical and mental therapy, but it also gets the creative juices flowing. Everyone was challenged to invent new rhythms for the group to play. And when the spirit moved, some of the players got up and danced. Frank plays in the Memphis Symphony Orchestra, but this hour leading a drum circle is one of his most rewarding musical moments.
But I just think the whole idea of letting people to be able to really get their hands on something and have it change their lives or make them feel better is really wonderful for me, and I continue to do it for that reason.
At Theater Memphis, veteran Memphis performers Joyce Cobb and Ron Jewell are entertaining a packed house. This is the Senior Art Series. While most of Creative Aging's presentations take place in senior facilities throughout the area, this art series is designed to bring the art to those who are aging in place. Joyce Cobb's smooth vocal style of jazz and blues entertains the audience with old standards and classic folk tunes, music that brings back memories.
Art stimulates your senses, you know, your breathing, your smelling, your visual, and it enables you to express your emotions, the inner feelings. It's a God's gift. It's like the nectar from heaven.
Veteran stage actor Ron Jewell brings Mark Twain back to life with his convincing performance.
I figured a long time ago that if art was good for the caveman, that it's got to be part of our genome.
You just got to remember that man was created at the end of the week when God was tired.
In this day and time, I can't think of anything more important than the connections we make with one another. And art and music help us connect with our families and our loved ones, but also with the communities that we live in, large and small.
Mark Twain was a master wordsmith. So, courtesy of Ron Jewell, I'll let him have the last word.
You should live your life so that when you die, even the undertaker will be sad.
Bacterial infections of the digestive tract are common. We've all been victim of a stomach bug that created discomfort and the desire to stay near a bathroom. But what if I told you that there is a bacteria that infects 500,000 people in the U.S. every year, and it's a contributing factor in 30,000 deaths? It's a highly contagious infection that often finds a breeding place in hospitals and nursing homes. Healthcare workers refer to it as C. diff, a shortening of the full Latin name of the bacteria. But no matter what you call it, it's a nasty little bug. What is C. diff?
C. diff stands for C. difficile or Clostridium difficile, and it's a bug, a bacterium, that can infect the human intestinal tract and can be a cause of diarrhea.
How serious is a C. diff infection?
C. diff can, in some patients, be fatal, yes. That's relatively rare. Usually we can treat this infection, although sometimes it takes more than one course of treatment to get rid of it. But in rare cases, particularly in very sick or elderly patients, yes, C. diff infection can be fatal.
What causes a C. diff infection?
Well, the two main risk factors for getting C. diff infection are being exposed to antibiotics or being exposed to the bug, to C. diff. The way that people get exposed to the bug usually is through contamination of work surfaces from a previously infected patient. But antibiotics are very, very important. Antibiotics, particularly when taken by mouth, will cause changes in the bacteria that are normally present in a person's intestinal tract. So in a way you can say that the antibiotics are getting rid of some of the good guys that are supposed to be there, and that makes room for some of the bad guys like C. diff to come in. So C. diff gets into the intestinal tract. It produces toxins that damage the lining of the intestinal tract, and that causes diarrhea, and in some patients the diarrhea can be very severe.
Does age increase the risk of infection?
The aged are probably one of the groups that are at highest risk of getting severe C. diff infection for reasons that we don't completely understand. C. diff infection can be anything from mild to very severe or life-threatening. The elderly, who often have other illnesses and maybe on other medicines, are more prone to getting severe episodes of C. diff infection.
What is the treatment for a C. diff infection?
As I previously said, antibiotics are often the culprit that lead to someone getting C. diff infection, and by a strange paradox, we also treat it with antibiotics. And the antibiotic that's used most often is called metronidazole. It's also called Flagyl. And for people with relatively mild C. diff infection, a course of that antibiotic over 10 days, for example, is usually successful in getting rid of it. Patients with more severe C. diff infection may require additional treatment. They may require other antibiotics, and they may require other supportive interventions.
How can infections be prevented in healthcare settings?
In hospital, as a patient, it's really very important to make sure that everyone who comes into a patient's room, doctors, nurses, orderlies, visitors, relatives, they should wash their hands, and if anyone has C. diff infection in hospital, then that person has to be cared for and nursed in isolation. So when anyone enters that room, they should have proper barrier protection, gowns and gloves. There should be very careful sanitation, and the most important thing is proper hand washing of everyone who comes in contact with that person.
What research is being done?
There's a great deal of research going on about C. diff because it's become so much more important in the last few years. There have been changes in the bug. So previously, C. diff infection was not something that we were very concerned about because it used to be fairly easy to treat. Now the bug is what we say more virulent, that is, it's more aggressive, it's affecting more patients, and it's becoming more and more difficult to treat. And probably the most exciting development in the treatment of C. diff infection in recent years has been something that your viewers may or may not have heard about. And it's a little bit unsavory, to be honest, and that's called FMT, which stands for fecal microbiota transplantation. And that actually involves taking a stool sample from an uninfected, healthy patient, maybe a relative, for example, and actually putting that into the colon, the large intestine, of someone with C. diff infection. And it doesn't sound a very savory procedure, I understand that, but results to date have been really very impressive for that treatment and getting rid of C. diff infection that's either been very difficult to treat or has come back frequently.
For more answers to your questions about C. diff infections, search the website of the Centers for Disease Control or visit the website of the C. difficile Guide. Want more information about life after 50? Go online to watch more shows and find more resources. And send us your feedback and story ideas to besttimes@wkno.org. That's all for this edition of The Best Times. Please join us next week for more stories about life after 50. Until then, I'm Chris Hardaway. Thanks for watching. Good night. Funding for The Best Times is provided by the Plough Foundation, striving to do the greatest good by helping the greatest number of people since 1964. Additional funding is provided by the members of WKNO. Thank you.